Final update. My wife had a fling when she was my girlfriend and she thinks I should just be okay with it because it doesn't count because we were not yet married. Now I'm in limbo. As you know, I asked to just drop it till last night so I could focus on a job related item I had to get done. She kept her word about it, but I could tell she was very emotional and honestly nervous. She is taking some strong benzodiazepines for her anxiety, but even as strong as it is, I can still see how anxious she had been. I wasn't intentionally trying to punish her. In fact, quite the opposite. I really was trying to give her a break as much as me. But she told me last night that not holding her or showing any real affection towards her was almost torture to her. Well, last night finally arrived and we had what my dad always called a come to Jesus meeting. I got home from work and I brought dinner so there would be no distractions of cleanup or anything. We started talking around 6 and finally ended around 2ish. In that time frame, we laid out a lot of issues that have been present and what or if we are both willing to do to move forward. Long story short, starting today I am living with my brother for the next few, not sure. She is understandably upset by all of this and I am making an effort to communicate openly with her so she does not feel abandoned or neglected. If you're wondering how we got from talking to me living with my brother, here it is in a nutshell. I know this is not going to make several of you very happy, but here is where I'm going with this. I want to save my marriage, but I can't do it by living what I feel was somewhat of a lie. I know she never intended to lie once we were married, but when I sat down and thought about this one question, would I have stayed with her if I had known at the time she did this? Each and every time I answered no. So to me, she took away my ability to choose whether or not I wanted to continue, and we built the next few years based on the foundation of something that wasn't quite true. However, the truth is, we still built something. Sometimes foundations can be repaired and sometimes you have to tear them down to build new on. This is what I'm hoping to do. I'm hoping to shake things up enough for both of us so that we can start over. Like I said in the very first post, our marriage until this point had been what I would consider to be perfect, or as perfect as any one thing can be. But there were some very troubling things that occurred due to this, and here is a brief synopsis of our talk. I laid out the fact that while I absolutely was upset about the cheating, and yes, I still consider it cheating, which she has now come to realize this is the way it is and is going to be considered, I was equally upset by her lack of consideration for my feelings on this. I told her that I resented being told I was immature and a child for something that objectively speaking I had every right to be upset about. Her response was to apologize and tell me she was in the wrong, and that while she admitted fault and saw what I was saying, that at the time she had convinced herself that because we were married I was wrong to be upset about something that happened beforehand, but she now sees where this is wrong. I then told her that I felt very disrespected by her associating with this guy right in front of me and that I felt humiliated having to shake his hand. Her response was to once again apologize, and she said that in her mind at the time she felt like she was trying to show me that there was nothing there. She said she felt like if she avoided him or acted shady around him I would be more upset. I told her she was wrong. She said that out of all of the things, this is the one that had hit her the most in the face, because even her sister has told her how poor this was for her to do to me, and she was deeply hurt by this because it had hurt me, which she never wanted to do. I then talked about her lack of remorse over being with someone else while we were together. Her only response was to say that she was very sorry. How that at the time she just used very poor judgment, and if she could go back and change the past she would. Then came the talk that got the most discussion. How I felt like she really wasn't sorry for anything, but that she was just sorry that I didn't just shrug my shoulders and say that everything was going to be okay. That there were going to be repercussions for what I consider to be an act of betrayal and then an act of not caring about me. I'll give her full credit here. She was brutally honest about this, and at least she was, so we didn't have to spend hours trying to work our way around it. She admitted that when we got home after the event she started to realize that I wasn't going to let this go, and then as time went on she knew that this was an issue. Her first instinct was to be mad at me for being mad at her, but then realized even from her own point of view how stupid that was. But again, she had it beat into her head that she was my wife and that I should easily forgive and forget something that happened way before we were married. She also admitted that when it became real she frankly outright panicked thinking about losing her marriage. Nobody on either side of her family is divorced, so she could be the first, and she admitted to that being a big factor in her panic attack. But as the week has progressed and she has spoken more to her family, she is seeing that what she has put in her mind about marriage isn't the end all be all she thought it was. She also did really feel bad about bringing the guy around to me. However, you will notice, which I did too, that she never said she felt guilty about being with him. Now I want everyone to know this as well. What I have given you from above is a brief synopsis of events. She sounds like a robot in this version, and believe me, she was not. There were lots of tears. Real honest tears. I've seen her oh woe is me tears before, so I know the difference. There were a few curse words and there were even moments of pleading and begging. As I said, this went on for 8ish hours, so by the time we were done she was physically exhausted. I have set out the following steps if we are to reconcile, and it is totally up to her if she wants to stay together. She is very, very adamant about staying together, by the way. I don't care how illogical it seems she is to never have contact with him again. This is an absolute for me and a deal breaker, and I was absolutely clear on this. We have to have couples therapy. While I am living with my brother we are still legally married, and this is not an invitation or excuse for either of us to see anyone else. Again, deal breaker in a second if either of us uses this as an excuse. Believe me, I will not, and I don't believe she will either. We start over. To a point. I have to view her differently now. Even if I didn't want to, I can't just forget that she chose to cheat. So that's where we are now. I know that is not what some of you wanted, but ultimately I have to go with what I believe will make me happiest in the long run. My head say be aware, and I am going to guard my heart for a long time, but my heart is still in love with her. We are going out on a date Friday night, which she is really looking forward to. I have no idea how long I will be with my brother. Hell, I may not make it past Friday. But if nothing else, I feel like I have some control here, which I felt prior to the talk I had almost none. In the end, I held her for a long time and we slept together. I do not want a broken woman. Right now that is kind of what she is. I want her to be my partner for life, but I do want her to know that to be a partner she has to equally care about my feelings as I do hers. Final update. I've been staying with my brother for a little over a month. I cannot say enough nice words about him. He has bent over backwards to help me and I've come to appreciate him in a whole new way. The big news is that I have delivered her with divorce papers. Now before those of you who wanted me to dump her jump for joy, let me explain something. I went to a divorce lawyer and explained everything, including the fact that I did not want to go through with the divorce but wanted everything in place just in case. He drew up a divorce decree and made 3 copies. One he kept on file, one for her, and one for me. I decided to take the paperwork to her myself because I knew she would be upset and I wanted to explain to her what was happening. I gave her the paperwork in a manila envelope and explained what it was before she opened it. I also made it very clear to her that I was not going to do anything with it unless we both failed to meet the conditions we both agreed upon. I explained that I was committed to us, but I really needed to see that we were headed in the right direction and that this was only there as a standby in case she didn't think I was serious. Well, this did not go over as well as I had hoped, and in retrospect, this was a mistake on my part. She had been doing everything in her power prior to that to live up to the agreement. We had been out on several dates prior to this that were great for both of us. In other words, my timing sucked. My intention was good, but it did make it look like I was not acknowledging the steps she was taking to make this work. This led to another giant anxiety attack that we could not get under control with her meds, so off to the ER we went again. This time they gave her a shot and sent her home, and we both agreed that we would keep her family out of it this time. I stayed with her for 2 days just to make sure she was okay. This of course came up in our counseling session, and well, let's just say that I came across looking like a manipulative a-hole, which again in retrospect I was. I ended up taking my copy and her copy and tearing it up in front of her. She doesn't know there is a 3rd copy, but I plan on having him discard that as well. So now I pretty much feel like a monster because the look on her face when she got the divorce papers was something I never want to see again. She was so happy to see me that day, and then I gave her that, and then instant combination of sadness and terror. Other than that bump in the road, things have actually been going very well. Well enough in fact that I am moving back home this weekend. My brother has been great, but I am cramping his style no matter what he says. It's been fun playing Xbox every night though, I won't deny it. But mostly I'm going home because she has done everything I have asked of her and I have put her through hell. I think she's paid a steep enough price, and I know she knows how serious this was. Also, in case I didn't mention this before, I do love her. She made a very stupid selfish mistake, but it was years ago and she had been almost the perfect wife up until that discovery.